thing I'm going to do is Hamlet's soliloquy. It won't work.
I'm not a contribution to the skull.
I think I'll have a little vodka on the rocks. I always like to keep my vodka in the picture. Where's Derek? Oh, there you are. Okay. Everyone's taking my picture. Who am I?
Just some guy.
Cheers.
Have you been wired up yet?
Oh no! I think they can hear me.
For Fred needs it for the camera.
Oh.
Patch into the camera. He needs personal mics on both of us.
We're not taping this.
Oh, we are.
Well, I was told we're not.
Oh, we're not?
No, Martin says we're not taping it.
Let's go then.
Right, okay.
Command communication.
Right. So, how do we do this? Does anyone have a question?
You can sit down.
I
Just have to make one announcement. Please turn off all cell phones. You didn't have cell phones in all of us, did you?
Well, it might be important. It might be your grandmother saying she's not well. I mean, come on.
Well, Mr. Hedison wants to take this questions from the audience, so let's be spontaneous then. Anybody have a question? Let's start us off.
Maybe I should lead.
Over on the side, please.
Yes, here we are.
Yes, Mr. Hedison.
Yes.
Talking to you as you know up here.
I know.
And I just wanted to say that, of course, of all the works you've done, which you, as a fan of everything you did, of course, The Fly was my favorite, and I really think that was the greatest sci-fi horror movie ever made.
The man has good taste.
I think that acting job was absolutely superb, especially considering that you had your head covered, you had your one hand or one cane in your pocket, and you could only gesture with your body, and but yet you got every point across, and I think you just did a fantastic job of that.
You know what always bothered me? People talk about, they say, was that you under the mask? I was ready to kill them. I did some of my best acting. When I was swinging the axe, there was a big axe, I was doing this, and one of the crew said to me, Al, it was Al, and he said, Al, you nearly sliced your leg off. Because I had a real hatchet. I was going nuts. But it was a good scene. It worked very well.
Obviously, they had to do that in one take.
Oh, yes. I destroyed that whole set in one take. And I loved every minute of it. Right. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What was it like working with Richard Faison?
Great. In fact, I got to tell you, when I did Voyage, he was the reason that I decided to do it, because I didn't want to do the series. And when Irwin Allen told me that Richard Basehart was going to play the Admiral, that did it. I wanted to do it, and I'm glad I chose to do it. He was a wonderful actor and a great friend.
I have a quick question. Al Hedison in The Fly, and then it became David Hedison. Is there a reason for the differentiation?
Yes, I did. Was put under contract to 20th Century Fox as Al Hedison, and my first film, The Enemy Below, then that minor classic, Son of Robin Hood, and then The Fly. Then The Fly was all Al Hedison. Then NBC was doing a new series called Five Fingers. They wanted me to play the part, but they hated the name Al. So, since I was under exclusive contract to Fox, they said, well, we've got to drop the name Al. And I said, well, don't I have anything to say about it? He said, no, just drop the Al, we'll take your middle name, David. And there we are. That's it. That's the story. Isn't that right, Betty?
Yes.
That's it. Right,
Last time you told me that.
I told you that 5,000 times.
And I have, yes. That's question number 5. Next.
Yes.
Another question, please. Over here on the side?
Favorite episode from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea any season?
I'm sorry?
Favorite episode?
Oh, favorite episode. There was there were two called The Phantom and The Return of the Phantom.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I love doing that. Man Beast. Oh gosh. Diane, what was the other one I told you about?
Saboteur from first season.
Saboteur, I like that. Human Computer,
Yes.
I guess. Except people see it on DVD and they say, yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful quality. We can even see the strings. There's one thing in the human computer, you know. I'm walking down this hallway and all of a sudden I turn because it's clank, clank. And I turn and I walk. And what it is a fire extinguisher banging up against the wall. And I realize what it is. But when you see this thing in DVD, you see the wire. Any more questions?
That actually jogged my memory when you talked about working with on Return of the Phantom. One of the things that I know that a lot of people talk about is that how exactly you got Alfred Ryder's, mannerisms and speech patterns down, and did you work closely with Al?
Wasn't I good?
Yes.
Wasn't I good? I think I was marvelous because originally I knew I had to do a German accent. So I started trying to work on a German accent, which was pretty good. Then I saw Alfred Ryder on the set doing his accent. I said, that's the strangest German accent I've ever heard in my life. So now I would go to the rushes and I would listen to his sound. And I was trying so hard to get his sound. And I thought I did very well. I did it and got it. And it was fun. Yeah. Anyway, enough of patting yourself on the back.
As I think I told you, my mother's the biggest fan of The Young and the Restless and all Belle's soap operas. And was there a particular reason you wanted to do that role, or was there just...
You mean in Another World?
No, The Young and Restless.
Oh yeah, was there a particular reason?
Yeah, other than just income, but...
That's it. That's the magic word, honey. Money. Pay the mortgage.
On that particular series, there are some people that have been around for show business for many, many years.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who won't do soaps, and because they can't learn lines. And if you've worked in the theater, you've got to be able to, play long scenes. And that's the thing about soaps, because they don't stop. When the scene starts, they got this camera goes, but you're moving and doing and saying the words all the time. And it's very tough work. And especially getting older, your mind doesn't retain lines the way they used to. And I used to work very hard on weekends, lying in bed going over these lines. But I did pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, you did.
Here I go again.
Down the side, please. Right here, down the middle.
What was it like working with Milton Berle?
Oh, that was fun. He was crazy. he was crazy, and I had a tendency, because usually when I work with people as an actor, I'm always looking at them and dealing with them and reaching the object. And he was always picking me up and turning me to the camera. He said, "This is not an acting thing." He said, "Look at the audience." And he turned me around. So I was always playing stuff out. And he was right, because in the Hollywood Palace thing that I did, it was fun. I had a great time doing that.
All right, in the front again.
Yeah, what kind of stuff did you do on stage? What kind of plays did you do?
Oh, I did let's see, what did I do? A lot of stuff. Tea House of the August Moon and Clash by Night in New York. The thing that got me started was a play with Uta Hagen called A Month in the Country that Sir Michael Redgrave directed. And I did that in 1956. And the result of that performance, they flew me out to Hollywood to do a screen test for Fox, and that was it. And here I am.
Were you one of those struggling New York actors?
Oh, was I? Sold my blood for $5 a pint. You know, they would quickly take your blood, wipe it off, and hand you a $5 bill. Dirty $5 bill. But I did that 3 or 4 times. Sold blood. And made money. But you know, in those days, $5 was a lot of money. We're talking now early 50s. So $5 was like $20 today. 25, whatever. Anyway.
Did you make the rounds of the live TV shows at the time, the studio in the Playhouse 90s? And,
Yeah, I did, but then I was an extra. I was doing under 5, what they call it. There was an extra when you did nothing. And then there was what they called under 5, where you may have had 2 or 3 lines, which is a different pay scale. So I did a lot of those. I did studio ones. And the first one I did was Craft with Joanne Woodward. And we were both in the school together at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. So we were old friends, but that was fun. That was the first thing I did on live. And then working nights at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. And my job was, the voice is going. It'll be fine. Oh no, that's fine. It's not really. Okay.
live TV?
So I had to work the Waldorf Astoria, and I would take care of the entertainment that would come into the Empire Room, take care of their props and things, and then I sometimes would put in the candles on the table, and I would polish the silverware, and I did all this kind of thing, and I worked from 6 p.m. at night till about 2 in the morning, 6 to 2. And I got a free meal when I went in there about 5:30, which was great. So then they had to make up my time card, and they didn't know what to put. They couldn't put silver polisher. They couldn't put waiter because I wasn't a waiter. They couldn't put busboy because I wasn't a busboy. So they put candle boy. I was a candle boy. And I thought to myself, if I ever write my life story,
Please.
that's the title. Candle boy.
Show of applause. Is everybody out here willing to pay for David Hedison's
Candle
life
boy.
story?
That's got nothing to do with a submarine.
You want to know, there was another biography called The Ragman Son, did pretty well.
Which one?
Oh, yeah.
Ragman Son.
Kirk
That is
Douglas.
Kirk Douglas, the Ragman.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm. Just as good a title as anything, I would imagine.
That's true. Absolutely.
I don't
Yes,
know.
sir.
I have a question. When you first did live TV, when you first went on, were you like terrified?
Oh, sure. Especially when you mean, it's always more difficult.
Yeah.
It's more difficult for an actor when he has one line or 2 lines, as opposed to having 8 pages, because that one line is so important, and you figure you're going to forget it. This is that's the line, and you find yourself repeating that line and repeating that line, and you're a basket case because you think I'm going to miss it. And it is terrifying. For I always feel when there were men on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea that would come in with maybe a line or 2, my heart always went out to them because I knew how difficult it was, as compared to me that I would have all these other lines that were easy. If I missed the first one, then we do another take, and we go right into the scene again. So that was it. Hello there, Stephen. My personal photographer. I take him with me everywhere.
Gentlemen standing up on the side, question?
First of all, welcome to Hartford County.
Aberdeen.
In Aberdeen.
Yes.
I have one question, 2 parts. The first film that you, well, not the first film that you did, of course, was The Fly. But the second film that I remember.
No, it was The Enemy Below.
Okay.
That was first.
I remember you in The Greatest Story Ever Told.
Oh, way back.
Yeah. What year did you shoot that? Where did you shoot that? And what was it like working with George Stevens?
Oh, it was great. He was a very silent man. He never said too much. And that was a picture. It was I was on that for 9 months, and we shot it in some of it in Hollywood, and Pyramid Lake, Nevada, Page, Arizona, and what we shot in Page is now a big, lake. It's all sort of buried. It's all underwater. But that was a very disappointing film to me because I played the Apostle Philip, and they had lots of footage, and it was like, by the time they put the thing all together, it was like a 6-hour film. And so they had to cut it down to about 2 hours or 2.5 hours. So a lot was cut out, and I was totally cut out. And here I was in a film for 9 months, and I wasn't even in the picture.
Did you shoot that in 64 or 65?
No, earlier.
Earlier than that.
It was
62, I think.
It was released in 65.
It was released in 65.
It was released in, well, I made it in, it couldn't have been 63.
You were in that when Irwin was trying to get you on Voyage, so that would have been sometime 63.
Oh, really?
Because he said he was pursuing you all over the place. You were working for George Stevens at the time he was pursuing you, so it would have made.
Well, the reason I asked that is because Keaton Wynn played the blind man, and I believe he died a year. He died in 65.
No. His father, his father, Edwin.
Edwin,
Yeah.
Blind man, yeah.
No, it seems to me, now wait a minute, let's get this straight. No,
No, they
not that it's important.
They filmed it for years.
Because it was,
They filmed it for years before they released it.
yeah, that's probably what it was.
So you said it
But
was.
I think, Betty, I finished it in 62. Because in 63, I went to the film festival.
Yeah.
I did the Saints.
Right.
Then I went home and
In
in
Egypt.
November of 63 did the pilot of Voyage.
And then my second question, real fast, is obviously
A second question? You're only allowed one.
I remember you from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, but what was, I'm sure I came in late, but what was it like working on a James Bond film?
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. It's great because, first of all, they treat you like a king. And, it's first class all the way. The best hotels and first class trips everywhere. And they take their time. And it's fun, and especially working with people you like. And, of course, the first one was Roger Moore. Originally, I was asked to do Live and Let Die.
Right.
It was Tom Mankiewicz who wrote the screenplay. And he asked me if I was interested in doing it. I said, sure, because at that time, Sean Connery was set to do it. And the next thing I know, Sean bowed out because he was tired of doing them. And then they got Roger Moore.
Were you set to do any more of Roger Moore's?
No, it was just for that. It was just for that one. For that one, I didn't have to do any more.
Because you were good at Felix Leiter.
I thought it was very good. Here we go.
Good job, Mr. Leiter.
Thank you.
Really? Yes.
Anyway, no, it was good. It was great fun, and I love working with Roger Moore.
Right.
And I always think to myself, after I finished that film, maybe I should have pursued it and said to them, is there any chance? But maybe not. I don't know, because they would take turns. It was Harry Saltzman and Cubby Broccoli.
Right.
Cubby I loved. Harry I hated. And Harry was on, Live and Let Die.
Right.
He took over that one. And I hated Harry because he was a liar. He would say things and it wasn't true. So I think I've never said that I hated someone. I think he's the
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Harry Saltzman originally an agent?
Oh, he was everything.
Yeah.
He was an well, so was Cubby Broccoli.
Yeah, right.
But Cubby is a very, very sweet man. And then when I did the second one, License to Kill, Cubby was on that one. Thank God. So he was terrific. And but Harry was just impossible.
So
I could write a book about it.
I'm sure you did a nice job.
Oh yeah.
So how did they they filmed the scenes where you were with the shark in License to Kill.
No, well, there was a real shark, and they really took off my leg. This is, this is not my real leg. It's a prosthetic leg. No, no, it was a fake shark, and then they had a live shark in there. But they wouldn't get me down with a live one. But no fun, they made it look very, in fact, that scene was much more horrific when we finished it. And, you know, they didn't like too much violence in those Bond films because it would get an X rating. And, you know, it's funny, in Europe, too much violence is X. Right? You get that? In America, violence is cool. But sex?
Yeah.
It's okay in Europe.
In Europe, it's fine. Well, sex is that everybody has sex. Oh, and you know, that's nothing. It's normal. It's like eating and drinking or whatever you do. It's a form of life. But violence, killing people, shooting people. Look what's going on in the world today. Look, I could go on forever about this, but let's call it quits.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
What was it like meeting Princess Diana and Prince Charles when you went to the premiere of License to Kill?
Oh, they were very nice. They were very, very. Hello, nice to meet you. It was fine. You know, it was great. I always loved going to London. I loved London. But you know what? I don't want to go back there anymore. And my English friends say, why? I says, well, because there are no English there. It's so mixed with so many other people. And the buildings. And I remember Park Lane, that lovely street. It's two-way. And there was no American Embassy. There was no Hilton Hotel. It was all English. The Dorchester, the Savoy. Everything was English and very grand. But it was nice. But now it's, I don't know.
Become Americanized.
Very, very Americanized in the worst way. But anyway.
Another question over here?
Betty, you have something to say? Getting English.
Can you talk a little bit about For the Use of the Hall, which is one of my favorite things, For the Use of the
Oh
Hall.
yes, by Oliver Haley. That was something I did
75.
in '75.
For a second, what are you talking about for a second? People didn't hear the
Oh yes,
question.
there was something I did for PBS.
Yes.
And it was called For the Use of the Hall. It was written by Oliver Haley, and it starred me, Susan Osbach, Barbara Barry, Aline McMahon, George Firth, some wonderful actors. And it was very popular. Did you like that? It's a lovely thing.
Well, it's a different you. I mean, it's not.
It is a
what we
different
usually
me.
see.
Oh, there are many me's.
Little chicken parts all cut up.
What is?
Bones.
Little chicken parts all cut
Oh,
up.
yeah,
The thing
yeah,
you were
yeah,
cooking
yeah.
on the stove to
True.
try and feed the gun.
It's on DVD.
Yeah.
Is it on DVD?
Yes. Amazon.
Oh, thank
DVD?
you. See what you learn in these
Do you have a
I
website?
got to get out more.
Do you have a website that people can keep up?
Oh
with?
yes.
Two of them.
I can't even remember.
Go first. Okay.
Betty. David.
www.david-hedison.com and davidhedison.net.
.net. And
Which
there's-
is Diane,
There's one
yeah.
more.
Oh, no, that's
No, that's
it.
it.
They'll get to
There
them.
was another
That's it.
You mean there's only two?
But I only use one address.
She only uses one address.
But I have two domains.
But
That's
two,
why you think
but
there's
two names.
three.
That's why you think there's three.
But it's www.davidhedison.net.
You see, I got to get out more.
Did we have a question in the middle here? Was it? Over on the side bench, please.
Do you have any behind-the-scenes stories from the Lost World that you can share with us?
The pink boots.
I did all the pink ties. Are they? This was, I mean, I just thought it was a silly film. I didn't want to do it. Somehow I did it. And I just thought it was I don't know. I thought it could have been a good film. I like the beginning of it. I love the stuff with Claude Rains. I love some of the comedy. Then I thought it got ridiculous with Jill and her pink tights and that silly poodle. All of this stuff. And I must say, I was really miserable on that film. And the best thing that happened to me on that film was getting to know Claude Rains. And I would go into the dressing room and I would ask him all kinds of questions. And he would tell me the time he did this film with Betty Davis and how she was, and then he did this film and that. Oh, he was grand. He was a wonderful actor. So it's such a pleasure being able to have that experience to talk to him. But I didn't like the picture. In fact, a year later, Irwin Allen called me and he wanted me to do a motion picture called Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And he sent me the script. And I thought, oh, more of same. It's lost in world except it's in the water. I said, I can't do it, I don't want to do it. And I made up some story. I wasn't put on suspension, so I didn't do it. That was finished. Of course, wouldn't you know it, he called me 2 years later or whenever for the pilot of Voyage to play Captain Crane, which was played in a movie by Robert Sterling. Well, I still didn't want to do it, and I turned it down many times. But he was persistent. He wanted me so badly to do it, and I'm thinking, gee, he must think I'm Marlon Brando or something. No. And he would call me in New York. I was visiting my parents. Called me, that was in Providence. He called me in New York. I went to Egypt. He called me in Egypt. He called me in London when I was doing The Saint with Roger Moore. And finally, he said that Richard Basehart was doing The Admiral. And that's when I had a change of heart. And I said, okay, what the heck, you never tell. And Roger Moore said to me, he said, David, you might as well do it. What are you doing now? I said, well, nothing. There's this thing on BBC, Tennessee Williams' Camino Real, if they want me to star in. I'd rather do that. He said, look, that thing will come and go. But Voyage, you never know what's going to happen to it. So I decided to do it. So I did Voyage. And I'm glad I did. And it was a terrific experience. But then I kept thinking, why was he so persistent? I mean, why would he want me? God, was he gay? He wasn't gay. And, and I said, well, it's nice to be wanted and whatever. And one day, bing, it hit me. You know why he wanted me? Because I was under contract to Fox. And I did The Enemy Below in the beige costume, the officer's costume. I did The Lost World. I did all these things of stock footage that they had that he was able to put into the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And he did that. That's why he wanted me. Oh my God, that's why he wanted me, not because he loved me. There was something like in The Lost World, it was called Turn Back the Clock.
Turn Back the Clock, yeah.
And he used a lot of my stuff from The Lost World. And so he knew what he was doing. And then there was another thing that...
Killers of the Deep, second season.
Second season.
He uses the Whitehurst several times in the long shot, the collision.
See?
Plus they put you in the submarine.
In the submarine. See? Can't lose. You can't win.
Did you ever work the other Irwin Allen shows, Lost in Space, or Time Tunnel, or Land of Giants?
I was never asked to do any of those, thank God.
This gentleman here on the end.
But you did come back and work for Allen in Adventures of the Queen.
Oh yeah. What happened was something. Dennis Cole was supposed to play opposite Richard.
Robert Stack.
Robert, thank you. Robert Stack, a dear man, who's now up in heaven. And then Dennis Cole, for some reason, dropped out. And I called Irwin. And I said, Irwin, what about me? And he said, oh no. He said, well, you done? You did the thing with Richard and Voyage, and I don't. He was giving me a million reasons why it wouldn't work. Then there was a pause, and he said, wait a minute. He said, let me call you right back. Call me back. I guess he checked with the network.
Yeah.
Picked up the phone and said, all right, you're on. He said, you get your hair cut, and let's go, and let's do it. And that's what happened.
Probably because it was on CBS. instead of
Probably.
ABC.
No. But anyway, that was it, and we did it. And it didn't sell, unfortunately. It could have been a good series. But everyone complained. They said that you were on the ship, but you never saw a crew person. You would see all these people dressed and walking around and eating in the dining room, but you never saw the crew or anybody running the ship. So I said, well, that's the way it goes. Welcome to Hollywood. Yes, sir. That's your third question.
Wow. Any reminiscence of Vincent Price?
And they asked me, how is it like working with Vincent Price and The Fly?
Right.
I didn't work with Vincent Price and The Fly. Now, why do you think?
Because you did the sequel.
We didn't do anything together in The Fly.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a no-fly
So
zone.
so then I didn't, thank you, very well done. We travel everywhere.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leiter. I do appreciate it.
Yes.
We'll be here all weekend. Don't forget the dinner waitresses.
Yes.
So what was that? Vincent, oh yes, but when I got to know Vincent, was on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Deadly Dolls.
And I would be kidding around on the set and doing stupid things. And he said, oh, you've changed. I said, what do you mean, Vincent? He said, oh, you used to be so earnest. Well, I was really very serious about The Fly. I took it very seriously. I thought it was a very important film. And I wanted it to work. I wanted everyone else to do the right thing. I just wanted that picture to work because I thought it was going to make a lot of money. Boy, was I right. Right.
Over here, please.
If you had a chance to be in a future Bond film, what kind of role would you like to play?
A future Bond film? James Bond. What's wrong with an old James Bond? No, I always thought they could bring Felix back with the bad leg and the crutches. I always thought they should bring him in and something got to save the day, let's say. We've forgotten about Felix Leiter. And who comes in at the very end on crutches and maybe a gun and shoots the bad guy? Felix. And just maybe one scene. And it could be at the end of the film, like, oh my God, it's Felix. And the audience would cheer. And I would get an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And the dream goes on.
I wanted to ask something about The Fly. Around the walls of the conventions and the hallways of the reproductions of the ads in which the producers say that anybody who can prove that it cannot happen, the transformation from
Yes.
The Fly to human could not be done,
Yes.
would be given $100 if you
Right.
can prove scientifically.
It's true.
What was that all about?
I don't know if that's what they used. It was some publicity stunt. But what they did before The Fly, oh God, this is crazy. What they did, they thought it was going to be a big picture. And it came out in the summer. People were lying on the beach. And that was the day when they had these planes go by with the flyers, and it said, "The Fly opens tonight." Decided to open the film at 400 theaters simultaneously. And they took an ad out, and I have it. The Motion Picture Herald took an ad out, and it said, "The Fly is open." Asterisk. And the guy says, 400 theaters never saw anything so big. It was very offensive. They pulled that out. They could never do it again. One issue. Whoop.
I think I'm leaving, you don't need me.
My ears open.
Any reaction to the remake with Jeff Goldblum that came out?
Well, it's funny, I went with my wife to see it at Fox. We were invited. I quite enjoyed it. I thought Jeff Goldblum was wonderful. However, I thought it was too gory. My dear wife had to leave midway. It was just, it's not her kind of film. And she had to walk out and sit in the lobby and wait for me. But you see, my feeling was the best pictures are when there's a good story. Story. That's what we all want, is a good story. And the others never had a story. And ours was based on the original, which was written by George Langeland, screenplay by James Clavell, was written, you know, Shogun, Taipan, King Rat, all that stuff. And it was a good story. And that's why our film, I think, was successful. But all the flies that were made after that, they all went for effects, not story.
I think that also makes a good TV series, good stories.
Yeah. There we go.
There's a fly.
That's my grandfather. Leave him alone.
I'll get the sugar.
He's just checking.
Yeah.
Trying to get those here.
Whoa! Hey, Gritty!
David, where did you study acting?
Where did I study acting? Well, a little bit at Brown University.
Yeah. My family helped found Brown.
Oh, really?
The founding family of Brown.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting. You can all go over there. Well, that's great.
Both
No.
my parents went to Brown University also.
Oh, yeah,
Cool.
it's a great school. But then I went down to, I got a job. I left school at Brown after my third year. Wasn't that stupid? Because I really had the itch to be an actor. And I got a job as a fuller brush man. And I went around, sold brushes. And I was good with a fuller brush man. I had a lot of charm. You get it in there, the woman would open the door and say, hello. Would you, I'm the fuller brush. Would you like the pastry brush? Or would you rather have this is just a little sample. I was doing all that, and I'd come in there. And by the time I left, they bought all the brushes. So I would leave and I would save my money. I would save it. And I had like $1,000 saved up. And my dad gave me some money because I was working so hard. And I went to the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. And in my class was Steve McQueen. And, well, this is another funny story. Steve McQueen and Joanne Woodward. And a lot of other people. But, excuse me. Steve and I were pretty good friends and whatever, and we did a showcase at the end of the year. You know, you got to show your talent. So there would be all the students doing their thing. And I happened to be particularly good in what I was doing. It was a lucky day for me. I was very good in my scene. It was something called Paris Bound. And I was in that by Philip Barry. Steve did something from Truckline Cafe, and he was in that. And he was very good. And you know, it was all over with, and he was feeling great. And he comes up to me, and I was Al then. He said, Al, you and I are going to be stars. He said that. And I thought, that's an interesting comment. Well, a couple of years later, I was in Hollywood, driving down Sunset Boulevard. And there's a theater there called the Oriental. That was the name of the theater. And as I'm driving, I'm looking at the marquee. It said, Steve McQueen, the Blob. Al Hedison, the Fly. And if I could have said that to him then, Steve, yeah, you're going to be the Blob and I'm going to be the Fly. Blob and the Fly. And then, of course, then I saw him several years later, and he was a major star by then. And I was fiddling around on TV and doing my little humble thing. And he said, he looked at me and we talked. He said, well, he says, we're still working. Which I thought was a great line. And we were working.
Remember, he started out in a Western called Wanted Dead or Alive.
Oh,
before
right.
he ever did
Oh,
one.
that's right. And that's pushed him right ahead.
Uh-huh.
But he was always great. He was wonderful. Nice guy.
But others in the neighborhood playhouse you're talking about, Joanne, where does the...
Joanne, I can't think of, oh, Sidney Pollack, who's the director. Mark Rydell, who's the director. I don't know what happened to the others. Some of them, I guess, are teaching or doing little theater. I have no idea.
We have a question on the side, please.
Yes, when you had said about not actually working with Vincent Price, but I wanted to ask you about the scene right here at the beginning of the movie where he comes into the warehouse there after you were crushed under the press.
Yes.
And he identified you by saying there was a scar on your leg from the war.
Yes.
That's him. I mean, you were actually there with him at that, on that scene.
Was that a double?
No.
No.
That I didn't know. He wasn't there on that scene, as I remember. That must have been they could have shot my leg, and then got his reaction to it later when he was working.
Could have done it.
Yeah, but I don't remember him being there that day at all. It was just Patricia and myself. She's gone now. You know, she's died.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Patricia Owens. Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to ask you too, when you first transformed into the flock and you had the cloth over your head, prior to those scenes where she rips the cloth off and reveals you, were you actually wearing the mask before that, or did you only put it on just prior to that one particular scene?
Oh no, I was actually wearing a mask.
You had it the whole time?
Oh yes, definitely, because you could see through the cloth.
Yeah.
I had to wear it all the time.
Yeah, I know your head was bigger under it, but I
Right.
didn't know if you actually had the mask or that they just...
No, it wasn't. The one thing that bothered me when I saw the film, because you know there was that scene in the spider web when he's saying, "Help me, help me." They put me in a booth to scream, "Help me." So I pictured Andre Delorme in this situation where he is in the web and there is a spider coming closer. And I became so terrified, I started screaming, as I would, as the character, "Help me! Help me!" And it was like heartbreaking. It was so good. I was in it. And I thought what they were going to do was minimize the sound to the size of the fly with that same voice of Andre. "Help me!" But what they did was they scooted up the sound, and it came out, "Help me!" Well, that's not right. The voice would never sound like that. And I said, how much more horrific it could have been. If we could have heard the real sound, it would be even scarier. And the other thing was, when I was going to do the film, I go running to Buddy Adler, who was head of production at the time. And I said, "We've got to do, this is going to be a great movie. We've got to do progressive makeup. It'll be fabulous." I said, when she rips off the head, what you see is my eye, and part of it going into the fly. And you see, and it's like so horrific. She screams. But instead, he said, "Oh, well, we got you in a plastic mold, and we're going to do this." And I said, but it would be so much better if we do progressive makeup. He said, "Well, Jesus, Al, you don't want to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning, do you?" I said, yes, it'll be fabulous, let's do it. Wow, so I got the mask. They put me in this plastic mask, and then they got the eye, and then I put the thing on mine, the eye in, and the thing was going like that. I was sticking it out. Anyway, it's done, and it's successful. They made a lot of money.
You mentioned Claude Rains before. Did you ever get to work with other types of movie icons, people that you might have grown up admiring, going to the movies and the like?
Yeah. Well, I see Claude Rains, Robert Mitchum. Oh, God, what a great guy he was. He was wonderful. And Robert Mitchum, and what was my second film? There were some English actors I thought were wonderful in Son of Robin Hood, and then there was the other one.
Herbert Marshall, maybe?
Herbert Marshall, yeah. I remember him from the Three Foxes with Betty Davis.
You mentioned George Sanders.
George Sanders was on Voyage.
Right. And
lot
you
of
also
people-
were very fond of Edgar Bergen.
Oh, yeah, he was a great guy. He was wonderful.
Did you ever ever do radio back in the day? Because this.
No,
Okay.
never did radio.
All right. Any more questions, please?
Yes, sir.
Way back.
Just a little sidelight on The Lost World, though you thought it was a silly film. Willis O'Brien was the effects technician on that. That was his last film. Willis O'Brien did the 1925 silent with Wallace Beery, The Lost World.
Did he really?
Yeah, and of course he was the father of King Kong or whatever. And all that. But I found that very interesting that he was still around and he wasn't listed as the effects technician, which I guess is another word for,
Yeah, that's very interesting.
That was his last film. It was interesting because in the early stuff, we had all the animated creatures, and in The Lost World, they used those little reptiles that were supposed
Right.
to be, but the effects were, I thought,
Okay.
effective. Anyway, for what it was worth, and I think perhaps The Fly worked well because you made a statement that it had a story, but you also approached it as something that you thought was worthwhile, as opposed to, this is a little bit schlocky, let's.
Oh, yeah, like, some sloppy horror film.
I always felt that some of the bad sci-fi from the 50s, as people quote, or, someone diving in the water and coming up with their hair combed or whatever, if they bought into the premise and understood what they were trying to do, then if the story was halfway worthwhile,
Yeah.
then the film worked.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's something to do with anybody else who approach that kind of material seriously as an actor, because you have lines just as you would if you were doing Shakespeare. And, but you have to work through some of the hokiness.
Exactly.
And just a sideline, Sidney Pollack is very embarrassed about his acting.
Well, he shouldn't be.
Well, yeah, he shouldn't be, but he is.
He was good in Tootsie.
Yeah.
That's post. I'm
Yeah.
talking about
He's
his
always
post
been,
stuff.
in school, he was a wonderful actor.
Well, he did Robert Redford's first film, War Hunt. Actually, it was kind of like things, but it was actually a John Saxon big role.
Oh, I see.
And I just say, I worked in film and I worked with Sidney. And one day I asked him if War Hunt was really Robert Redford's first film, because you know how it was in the day, you do 2 or 3 films and then it's introducing.
Sure.
It really wasn't your first film. And he said, yes, it was. I said, well, I was just looking at my copy of War Hunt, and he must have turned 3 shades of green. You have a copy of War Hunt? And the producer of the film at the time was standing there. He says, "What's War Hunt?" And Sidney goes, "Oh, the film I acted in 1 year."
Yeah.
He wasn't bad at it, but it was, 58. You have to
Yeah.
realize what that was. Sidney had Tom Skerritt, Calvin McLeod, and a lot of people were going to do other films.
It's all history now.
Yes, it is.
We have time for a couple more questions, but first, the program note coming up next is an authors panel with Jack French and Jim Cox, and there's a schedule change. The seminar with Richard Hurd, in which he wants to pay tribute to Cecil B. DeMille and talk about his own career, which is scheduled for 9 o'clock tomorrow, will be happening at 4 o'clock in this very room, and we have a question in the second row.
Yes.
And the Q&A with David Hedison has been canceled. Who has the question? Oh, Diane.
We were talking about Pollock and Woodward and McQueen. Isn't McQueen a character in your latest project that you're doing? The audio?
Oh, it's something that I'm doing on tape. Has anyone ever heard of a woman called Barbara Lee, Leigh?
Vampirella.
Pardon?
Vampirella. That she was a model.
Oh,
into a Vampirella movie.
One person knows. Well, she evidently was.
In a Bond movie, I think.
She may have been in a Bond movie, but she had written a book called "The King, the Queen, and the Love Machine," about her time in Hollywood, and she had affairs with Jim Aubrey, the King, Steve McQueen, the Queen. Well, not really. And the Love Machine, Elvis Presley. And so she wrote a book, The King, the Queen, and the Love Machine. So they called me to play Jim Aubrey on this tape. So I just finished that a while ago. It's coming out on tape. But before that, I did one called McKnight's Memory. And that should be coming out soon, too. That was, I can't remember the guy's name who wrote it. I should, but I don't.
Krasinski or something. Paul Krasinski, or, it's very weird.
Paul is very difficult name.
Krasinski or something.
Krasinski is.
Karrazi or,
Well,
yeah, but it's Russian. Anyway, you
it
can-
couldn't be Jones.
But they can, if they look up Ignite's Memory, all those other things will pop up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But he's
He's
written a lot
also
of
up
books.
on Author's Den, if anybody knows where that is.
Right.
He's got his own page and his own newsletter.
Well, it's amazing. I never realized how big those books on tape are.
I work in that field.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Why don't you give me a job?
No, no. No, I record for the American Foundation for the Blind. I'm not blind, I dress this way on purpose.
Oh, I see. I see. No, it's something new that I've never done. I really enjoy it because, first of all, you don't have to memorize lines. You can look at the stuff, but you can also act. You can just do it now.
Oh, you've got a great voice.
It's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
We just got the signal to wrap it up, so I want to give you the last word. And,
Is it something I said? It's only.
remind everybody that your photos and autographs will be available
Oh,
across the
continue.
hall.
I'll be going. Hey, this was fun, wasn't it? Thank you. Somebody help an old man.
There's only one good leg.